Okay, sounds like we're up and running. So good morning, everybody. Welcome to the 594th board meeting of the California Regional Water Quality Control Board, Central Valley Region here in Sacramento. This meeting of the Central Valley Board is called to order at 9:05 or so a.m. on Friday, August 23rd, and a quorum of the board is present. I'm Mark Bradford, Chair of the Central Valley Water Board. I'll introduce the other board members in just 1 minute. Mindy, can you please begin by providing instructions for members of the public that plan to participate in today's meeting?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Mindy Maxwell, and I am the clerk of the board. I'll provide some information on how public participation will be organized for today's meeting. If you wish to make a verbal comment on one of the board items, or if you want to make a comment during public forum, you must be in person using Zoom webinar or calling in by phone. If you are currently watching the webcast on YouTube but wish to comment, please email agenda5@waterboards.ca.gov and request the registration link. I will respond to the email with the registration link. Once the registration form is submitted, you will automatically receive the Zoom link via email. If you are on the Zoom webinar and wish to speak but have not registered, please virtually raise your hand and you will be called upon after registered participants have spoken. If you are using a computer or tablet, please click the raise hand button. If you are calling in on the telephone, dial *9 to raise your hand. If you want to speak and do not raise your hand, your chance to speak could be missed. If you are in person at the meeting and wish to speak, please fill out a blue card at the registration table and provide it to the staff person. Staff will call each commenter by name and then unmute your microphone. For those calling into the meeting via telephone, staff will identify you by the last 3 digits of your phone number. For the record, please state your name and who you are representing before you speak. This is especially important for those calling in to testify on an item. A 3-minute timer will be used. You will hear a bell when the 3 minutes are up. Additional time could be granted at the discretion of the board chair. Please speak from a quiet location to avoid background interference. I would also like to give a friendly reminder to our board members, presenters, and staff to please mute yourself when you are not speaking to avoid background noise. Thank you.
Thank you, Mindy. I'll now introduce the other board members as follows. Nick Ovdis from Sacramento, Denise Cadera from Allensworth, who's participating virtually, Elena Lee Reeder of Sacramento, Sean Yang, also Sacramento, Art Baggett from El Portal, and again, I'm Mark Bradford from Sacramento. Nicole Morgan, State Water Board member, is participating in this meeting and will provide an update a little later. I'll now introduce Executive Officer Patrick Palupa, who will introduce his staff. Before that, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Patrick.
Thank you.
Sure.
As always, every single virtual meeting is a little interesting. The protocols change a little bit each time, but thank you so much. Directly across from me, I have Kennedy Knight from the Office of Chief Counsel. To my right in front of the board is Christina Shoup, Assistant Executive Officer who runs our Fresno office. To her left is JJ Baum, Assistant Executive Officer in our Rancho Cordova office. To my immediate right is Senior Staff Counsel Jessica Yar. To my far left, Adam Lapitz, the other Assistant Executive Officer in the Rancho Cordova office. And to my immediate left, Mindy Maxwell, Clerk to the Board. In the audience is Clint Snyder, Assistant Executive Officer who runs our Reading office, and a number of staff as well. And with that, I'll turn it back to you, Mark.
Thanks, Patrick. Board member communications. At this time, are there any communications from board members since our last board meeting? Seeing none at the table. Denise, are you there?
Yeah, I just have a couple. August 7th, I attended the Thule Multi-Land Repurposing meeting. Quite interesting. Wanting community members to score some of the projects that have been submitted, but they really didn't have an understanding of what that was. So the committee is going to have to go back and come back, educate and involve the community in the process. It was an unfortunate situation, but yeah, it's important if you're going to do community engagement, the community knows what they're about to approve of. So also on the 12th of August, we did a briefing with the tribal beneficial uses. On the 17th of August, I attended the California Legislative Black Caucus, State of Black California, that was in Fresno. And just on a personal note, as a board member, Allensworth has been having water problems. We've had water outages at least 4 times since July. Electricity has been a problem as well. We have high levels of concentration in our water. And, boiling the water notice is something we're dealing with. Last night, water went out about 8:30. I went to bed at 11:30. We were still without water. So as a board member dealing with water quality, it's a very unfortunate things that communities like ours have to be subject to this situation. And hopefully it'll get corrected soon. And that's all I have. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Denise. Yeah, that's sad to hear about the water going out. I think it kind of highlights what we're dealing with in San Joaquin Valley communities at large. Let's see, on my end, I had a interview for reappointment on the 10th of July. On the 15th, I sat in on that federal forest permit briefing, which is a really long, complicated story. But we're making good progress on it, and I think we're going to hear a lot more about that in the near future. And then on July 30th, there was another briefing that I attended on the Delta methyl mercury control program related to tribal beneficial use. Also another complicated subject, a lot of moving parts. And we're going to be talking about that a lot more in October, I believe, when we go up to Clear Lake. So that's it on my end. Do you have anything? No? Okay. At this point, we'll do the State Water Board liaison update, and Nicole Morgan is here to provide that update.
Good morning, Chair Bradford and members of the board. It's a pleasure to be here this morning to provide you with an update. First, just want to thank Board Member Kadara for continuing to bring the water issues in Allensworth to our attention. Greatly appreciate your advocacy there. So making conservation a way of life, that's been a rulemaking the Water Board has been undergoing for the past year. On July 3rd, the State Board adopted the proposed regulation. The regulation applies to state's largest water utilities, which serve 95% of California residents. It does not apply to individuals or households. Actions already underway by suppliers, businesses, and residents combined with the regulation are expected to produce about 500,000 acre-feet of water savings annually by 2040. This is enough supply to provide water to 1.4 million households for a year. The regulation is expected to be in effect by January 1st, 2025. To learn more about how the state is emphasizing efficient water use and long-term conservation goals, please visit the Water Board's conservation portal. So there's some funding potentially allocated to the Water Board and the climate bond. Just want to go over those numbers quickly with you just to keep you up to date. There's 610 million for grants or loans to improve water quality to provide safe drinking water. There's multiple project types currently identified, and there's 25 million of that amount for tribal infrastructure. There's 386.5 million for grants for water reuse and recycling, 15 million to the Department of Water Resources and the State Water Board to improve water data management and stream gauge. Just 110 million for grants for multiple benefit urban water stormwater management projects, and 50 million for loans and grants for cross-border water quality problems. And so that's for the Tijuana and New Rivers. So on July 31st, the state board issued a public notice for the Delta Conveyance Project, which sets forth the hearing issues starting on page 8, pre-hearing conference participation information for the August 13th initial pre-conference hearing, which passed, let's see, that was just last week. Hearing schedule and deadlines on page 13. The hearing notice also provides other details regarding legal background and ex parte rules and hearing procedures. So that is under ex parte, so I will not be able to answer any questions. The current county sub-basin probation hearing that is upcoming, State Board has developed a draft report on that groundwater sustainability plan. Written comments of the report are due no longer than noon on September 23rd. Staff will also hold 2 public staff workshops to explain the draft staff report and share more about how to participate in the state's intervention process. Staff will also accept verbal public comments on the draft staff report at the workshops. While a quorum of the board may be present, the state board will not take any regulatory action at the workshops. So those workshops are next week. The virtual workshop is on Monday from 11 to 1:30. The in-person staff workshop is on Thursday, the 29th from 5:30 to 8:30 p.m. The probationary hearing is scheduled to be held on Thursday, February 20th of 2025. So the Safer Advisory Group, our Office of Public Participation, is currently facilitating the 2024 application process. There's actually 11 seats that are open for appointment. The application period opened on July 2nd and will close on August 31st. And so that's the end of next week. Our Division of Financial Assistance has been busy updating the annual funding plans. And so that's our Clean Water State Revolving Fund Intended Use Plan, our Drinking Water State Revolving Intended Use Plan, and our Funded Expenditure Plan for the Safe and Affordable Drinking Water Fund. And so over the last 2 board meetings of August, the State Board adopted those revised and updated plans for this upcoming, well, for this current state fiscal year. And so State Board staff have also been working on a utility wildfire general order. Want to thank the regional board staff for working with us on that. On August 20th, the State Board held a public hearing on the order and supporting environmental impact report on the expedite authorization process for electric utilities that conduct wildfire mitigation, electric operations and maintenance activities that support the safety needs while ensuring adequate water quality protections. Written public comments are due by noon on August 30th. State Board staff also have been working on the small MS4 permit reissuance. On August 1st, a public notice was issued regarding the availability of the informational draft permit for a 60-day public comment period. Public comments are due by noon on October 4th. And staff will make available a high-level response to comments based on the comments received to prepare a draft permit for public release at a future date. And so there will be 2 workshops held. There will be a virtual staff workshop on Tuesday, September 3rd from 1 to 4, and an in-person workshop on Thursday, September 5th from 9 to noon. So that concludes my liaison report for this board meeting. I am available if you have any questions.
Yes, I do have a question, Chair.
Yes, Board Member Kadara?
Yes, my question was, you mentioned the water reuse and recycling fund. Can you give me a little bit more information about that, please?
So I believe that was part of the potential funding in the climate bond. And so that will be up to the voters, whether or not that gets approved. And that is the potential funding that is currently allocated. So that is we'll wait and see how that plays out over the upcoming months.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Nicole. Appreciate it. A lot of detail. You guys are very busy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Patrick.
I just want to express my appreciation. I know a lot is happening at the state board these days. And thanks, Nicole, for coming in and keeping us apprised of all those activities. I would take 1 minute, Chair Bradford. I know item 4 was a state board liaison update, and I would suggest that we go to public forum next. The executive officers report, we're going to be presenting a couple retirement resolutions as well as an SAA. And so my suggestion would actually be that we do the approval of minutes and the approval of the uncontested items prior to that. So doing a little out of order. And we do have a commenter on the uncontested item that I'll introduce when that time comes. But I would
Okay.
suggest we go to public forum next and then.
Yeah, thank
go to
you.
minutes.
That is actually in order. I just skipped over it. So if you are a person in the meeting and wish to speak and have not submitted a speaker card, please fill out a blue card at the reception table. If you're on the Zoom platform and have not already registered but would like to speak during public forum, please raise your hand now. Mindy, has anybody submitted a request to speak on any topic which is not on the agenda today?
We do have some registrants online. Most have indicated they do not wish to speak. So if you are online and wish to speak, please raise your hand. I do have one person in person today. Tim Johnson with the California Rice Commission is here and would like to speak.
Okay, let's do that now.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, and Art. Tim Johnson, President and CEO of the California Rice Commission. I just want to give you a little bit of history about the rice industry's interaction with your board over the last 40 years. We were one of the first agriculture industries to be regulated in the state. When you hear about the rice pesticide program, that is a program that goes back many retirements ago, where we successfully working with the state, UC Davis, working with the Department of Pesticide Regulation, really were able to get rice pesticide discharges into the Sacramento River under control. Your staff was instrumental, and this board was instrumental in that success, which removed 95% of the pesticides that were at the time being discharged into the Sacramento River removed. We also, that program was really a significant part of the development of the Irrigated Lands Regulatory Program, those WDRs. Rice manages the only commodity-specific WDR in this region, and think we do it successfully because of that long history of being regulated and the good interaction that we've had with your board. So in that context, I provide the following comments. Over that time, we've worked with a lot of very good staff, and we've always been appreciative of that. We have worked with a few great staff. And certainly today, I know you'll be recognizing her in a minute, Sue McConnell, really one of your stellar staff that has worked so well to achieve your objectives as well as work with the regulated community. I really think she embodies what I would consider to be a good regulator. Now, remember, this is coming from the regulated community. I'm not ever sure those words come out of our mouths, but she is a good regulator. She listens, she's solution oriented, and she's tough. I'll be honest with you, when there was an issue that was difficult, she was tough, right? She got it done. We didn't walk away from the table and say, "Oh, we'll do this another time," or "I'll leave that for another staff member," or we'll punt it to a later discussion. The result has been better regulation for the agricultural community, better regulation for rice, right? The solutions focus to allow us to be able to find a way to meet the needs of the state board, the regional board, in ways that work for our crop, ways that work for our community. So it's with that, I just wanted to offer my real deep appreciation for Sue's many years of service, her incredibly hard work, and quite frankly, her kindness, right? This is a tough world that we all sit in when there's objectives on both sides. That's frankly very rarely done with the kind of kindness that we've seen from Sue. So on behalf of the California rice industry, our 2,500 farmers, our 500,000 acres in the Sacramento Valley, I just wanted to express our appreciation to Sue and make sure that you knew as a board that those of us who worked with her every single day are deeply indebted and greatly appreciative of her work. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Tim. It's always nice to hear from that side of the table that our staff is working so productively and effectively with the regulated community. I represent a lot of regulated community members when I was a consultant, and I always really enjoyed being across the table from somebody who understood what the goal was and how to get there most effectively. And like you said, not to just punt it down the road. So I think we're going to hear more about Sue in a little bit, so I'll stop there. Thank you again. Okay, per Patrick's suggestion, we'll skip ahead to approval of the minutes, which was agenda item 7. Are there any edits or corrections to the June 21, 2024 minutes? Hearing none. Can I get a motion to approve in a second?
So moved.
Nick has moved.
Second.
Art seconds. Mindy, if you could take the roll call.
Board Member Yang,
Abstaining, I wasn't here.
Board Member Kadara,
Yes.
Board Member Lee Reader,
Aye.
Board Member Baggett,
Aye.
Vice Chair Abdus,
Yes.
and Chair Bradford.
Yes, thank you. Okay, we'll address the uncontested calendar now, agenda item 8. This is a time and a place for a public hearing to consider uncontested items 12 through 15. If you are a person at the meeting and wish to speak and have not submitted a speaker card, please fill out that blue card at the reception table. If you're on the Zoom platform and wish to speak but have not registered, please raise your hand now. I think we've already established that nobody has raised their hand to speak or submit a comment. So are there any late revisions to these items?
Chair, we do have a
Oh, we have
comment.
a speaker. Oh, he snuck
Yeah.
up there on.
Prior to the meeting, Mr., and correct me if I'm saying your name wrong, Fabian Balbuena? Fabian Balbuena. I saw this gentleman in the audience. He is here to have a brief comment on Bonzi landfill. My understanding is you're served by some of the replacement drinking water
Yes.
for the Bonzi group and received the notice. I certainly offered that Mr. John Murphy's group, who oversees the Title 27 facilities, can meet with Mr. Balbuena and work through any concerns that he has about that facility. But I invite you to say whatever you want to say to the board at this time, and thank you for coming forward.
Yes. Hi, my name is Fabian Balbuena. I'm from Modesto, California. The Agenda 12, Section B, Maru Holding Company and Bonsai Sanitation Landfill. I have a concern with that. I just wish to seek more information of what is the consideration of the revised waste discharge and what are the next steps that the water board is gonna take to assess later on of the thin liner that was placed to keep the landfill from entering the groundwater.
Absolutely. And we will work to answer those questions. I told Mr. Balbuena I have some personal experience with the Bonzi landfill. It's been I don't want to say a thorn in the board side, but there's a sordid history of bankruptcies and folks running away from their responsibilities. Litigation, Office of Enforcement was tied up for years in that site. And we're doing our best to rectify the water quality impacts out there. The updated WDRs take a step in that direction. And again, if John, could you come forward for 1 second? And Mr. John Murphy is the new program manager overseeing the Title 27 unit, and certainly offered to make his staff available to work with you, Mr. Balbuena, to talk about the facility.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Other than that, I just wanted to seek information, and yeah, that's all my time.
No, I appreciate you coming up here, and certainly hope that John's team can answer all the questions that you might have about that one.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. A long drive from Modesto for a short talk, but I appreciate it. And I hope you can get some more answers before you leave today. Okay. On the uncontested calendar again, are there any late revisions?
No late revisions.
Okay. Does council have any legal issues to discuss?
No.
Okay. If we get a motion in a second, we can take a vote on these.
I'll move the consent calendar with the late revisions.
I'll second.
Yeah, Elena moved and Nick has seconded. Mindy, if you could hold the roll call.
Board Member Yang.
Aye.
Board Member Kadara.
Yes.
Board Member Lee Reader. Board Member Baggett.
Aye.
Vice Chair Abdus.
Yes.
And Chair Bradford.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, the next item was just a administrative issue with the board meeting dates for 2025. And the proposed dates are on the 20th and 21st of February, 17th and 18th of April, which would be held in Fresno, 19th and 20th of June, 21st and 22nd of August, the 16th and 17th of October, which would be held in Reading, and finally the 11th and 12th of December with a 10 a.m. start time. So are there any questions or comments on those dates from the board members? I think we've already cleared those. If none, 2025 board meeting dates will be scheduled as indicated. So Patrick, do you want to do the executive officer report now, or should we just continue with agenda item 10 here?
Let's do the executive officer report.
Yeah.
I've been looking forward to this and not looking forward to this for quite some time. So
Okay.
give me just 1 minute and
Sure.
I'll get it for the other side.
Okay.
I'm in good shape. Thanks. So first, I would invite any comments before we get to the fun part on the executive officer's report itself. As usual, it covers a lot of ground. There's a lot of activities happening throughout the region, and we try our best to summarize those in a manner that's readable for the board and for the public. It is probably the one thing that I point folks to when they say, what does the board do day in and day out? Certainly, we have a lot of matters that come before the board, but the vast majority of the work is done on a day-to-day basis by items that are covered in the executive officer report. So any questions? I'm available for that. Good shape. Good to meet
It's not very comprehensive as always. Thanks.
So before we go into the discussion of a couple resolutions for some staff I've had the privilege of working with for quite some time, I want to recognize one of the newer staff within our office, and newer is a relative term. I believe I saw her on the Zoom, but Katie Gilman, are you there?
I am. Good morning.
All right. Good morning. And you'll hear a little bit more from Katie later on as part of a distinct presentation. But right now, I'd like to present a Superior Accomplishment Award for Katie Gilman, who works in the non-point source unit up in the Reading office. Katie Gilman is an engineering geologist in the Reading office's non-point source program and has been with the Central Valley Water Board since 2016. Katie began her career with the Reading office as a scientific aide in the groundwater unit and has worked in numerous program areas throughout the Reading office prior to her current position. Katie is tasked with a wide variety of assignments, including grant oversight, harmful algal bloom response, post-wildfire coordination and recovery, complaint response, and water quality monitoring. Katie is being recognized for her outstanding work ethic and efforts to manage a diverse workload. She has come to speed very quickly in her position, a daunting task considering the variety of tasks assigned to her. A grant that Katie is assigned had recently run into an unexpected cost increase. While the process to deal with this was initiated by a previous staff person in her position, Katie was able to pick up the process very quickly and continue moving it forward. Katie met with the grantee in the field to better understand the work being done and was able to continue working with state board staff to secure additional funds for several shooting ranges. In addition to her work with the grants, Katie is assigned oversight, of the grant project. In addition to her work with the grants, Katie is assigned oversight of several shooting ranges throughout the region. It can be a lead and other issue. Recently, Katie completed follow-up, including 2 separate rounds of surface water sampling at a range in Plumas County. She successfully coordinated with the United States Forest Service staff in needed mitigation measures, and one of the sampling events was able to be expanded upon to assist with another unit's oversight of a closed landfill in the area. Additionally, on top of her core workload, Katie has recently been assigned numerous complaints for follow-up. In all the circumstances, Katie has remained professional, interacted with a multitude of interested parties successfully, and has kept all her projects on schedule. These are just a few examples of the work that Katie is involved in. Katie does an outstanding job keeping her workload organized and is always a pleasure to work with. We appreciate all the work and effort that Katie puts into her position. Thank you, Katie, for your contributions to the important work of our office and of the region as a whole. And that write-up was provided by Griffin Perea, senior engineering geologist and her direct supervisor. I've had the privilege of getting to know Katie personally through her work with the Racial Equity Group, and I can certainly vouch for everything that Griffin puts forward. Katie is courageous about bringing issues to management attention and is somebody who always thinks of new ways of doing things and ways we can improve our processes. So I'm very, very happy to present this Superior Accomplishment Award to Katie. I know you're apparently not up on the screen here, but I know that you're participating in the Zoom. I don't know if there's any way to bring them up on the screen, or is that not working today? Okay, too bad. Well, thank you very much, Katie, and congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Adam, I need you to come up here for this. And so when I said that I've been both looking forward to and dreading this moment for quite some time, it is because before you today are retirement resolutions for two, frankly, pillars of the regional board that have lended their expertise and mentorship to numerous staff. And first and foremost, I'd like to recognize Sue McConnell. I've worked with Sue since I started with this board, so going on 20 years now, and there are many staff that have worked with her even longer than that. What you see on the screen right there, and thank you, Mindy, for putting this together, is a word cloud of some of her colleagues of how they see Sue and the adjectives that they would use to describe her and her work. I cannot thank Sue enough for the legacy that she leaves behind at the Central Valley Water Board. In her 36 years of work here, I think that's the right number, she has influenced virtually every program and just numerous staff that now work at the State Water Board, other agencies within this agency. And I know personally, her guidance and mentorship has meant the world to me. We'll talk a little later on about PYs and budget cuts and assessments and targets and things like that. And Sue on the org chart is just a single PY, but her influence has been felt so widely at virtually every aspect of this board. Her mentorship extends not just to the technical issues that she's an expert in, but also to the personal relationships that she's cultivated. I've looked to her for guidance, not just in the position that I have right now, but frankly, in navigating being a regulator and also being a father, working to create that work-life balance. Sue is always one to comment about when I got to take a break and go to the tennis court or go to the volleyball court or whatever it takes to keep your head above the water when things are getting tough. I also want to extend my deep appreciation to her husband, Stu, to Byron, who I hope is listening in one way, shape, or form, and to May, her daughter, who's here in the audience today, for lending Sue to us for all these years. I know Sue has worked a lot of hours with this board, dedicated nearly her entire professional career to protecting water quality in the Central Valley. The water quality and the people who worked at this board are much richer because of what she has done here and the legacy that she leaves. It is really with deep, heartfelt appreciation for her and her work that I present this resolution to the board today. And I'll have Adam read off the text of the resolution. And then I would invite a couple people who I see in the audience. And for those of you who are relatively new board members, there are some rock stars here today that have profoundly influenced the direction of the board and who may have retired 1 or 2 years ago, maybe a little longer than that. And really, it's great to see them come back and recognize the achievements of the two people that we're recognizing with resolutions here today. Without further ado, I'll turn it over to Adam for reading the resolution. Oh yeah, Sue's got to come up here.
You can do whatever. It's your day. You can do whatever you like. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and read these. I think, whereas Sue McConnell came to work at the Central Valley Water Board on July 25th, 1988, as a water resource control engineer. She holds bachelor's and master's degrees in chemical engineering and is an alumni of the University of California, Berkeley. Sue will retire from the Central Valley Water Board on December 30th, 2024, with over 36 years of state service. Whereas Sue began her water board service working in the Central Valley Water Board's Fresno office, Sue transferred to the Central Valley Water Board's Sacramento office in January 1989. In October 1999, Sue was promoted to Senior Water Resource Control Engineer. As a senior engineer, Sue was a key leader in working to bring consistency in how the non-point source program was implemented within all 3 offices of the Central Valley Water Board. Whereas on February 23rd, 2015, Sue promoted to supervising water resource control engineer responsible for managing the Central Valley Water Board's irrigated lands program. The irrigated lands program is one of the largest non-point source control programs in the state, covering millions of acres and about 30,000 individual growers. Whereas Sue is one of the few staff members that has worked in all 3 of the historic Sacramento office locations, Bonderson Building downtown, Routier Road Building, and the Sun Center office. Whereas because Sue has worked at the Central Valley Water Board so long, much of the knowledge of her early career has passed from fact to lore. One such alleged memory is that Sue started her career with the water boards without having learned to swim. Because of this, there was some concern for her safety when conducting field work. Peers who have asked to remain anonymous, maybe some of them here today, allege that Sue was a sinker. Of course, like everything else Sue puts her mind to accomplishing, she quickly learned how to swim, although there's some remaining skepticism regarding her skill level. Whereas Sue has a superpower that she uses to protect water quality while maintaining highly collaborative and cordial relationships with permittees, environmental justice groups, staff, government leadership, and the general public. Even in difficult situations, Sue has shown that conflict and challenges may be overcome through strong collaboration and maintaining positive relationships. Whereas Sue is an exceptional athlete and is known to be a force on the tennis and volleyball courts. She is a fierce competitor on the tennis court, so much so that her boss fears to play her. She is encouraged to continue pursuing these endeavors while mixing in yoga to give her opponent's pride some needed rest. Whereas Sue's strong and thoughtful leadership at the Central Valley Water Board has led to successful implementation of numerous important water quality programs. Just a few of these programs include the federal non-point source program, protection of water quality on the Rubicon Jeep Trail, Clear Lake Nutrient Control Program, Royal Mountain King Mine, the Stormwater Program, and the Irrigated Lands Program. Sue's leadership in the Irrigated Lands Program has established the Central Valley Water Board's program as a nationwide leader, ensuring protection of surface and groundwater quality while working to sustain important agricultural operations that provide food and fiber products to people across the nation and the world. Whereas Sue spent 36 years with the water boards, her high quality work, outstanding leadership, and mentoring of staff has made the Irrigated Lands Program highly successful and a fun place to work. She is known for her kindness, knowledge, leadership, and generally as the best boss ever. Sue seeks to bring out the best in everyone around her and is a blessing to work with. She is greatly missed, or she will be greatly missed. She's here right now. Oh, sorry, Sue. Therefore, be it resolved that the members of the Central Valley Water Board and its staff respectfully extend to Sue McConnell on the occasion of her retirement our sincere thanks and appreciation for a job well done. And the Central Valley Water Board wishes Sue the best in her future endeavors.
So I just want to say what an honor it has been to have been able to create my career here at the water boards. Hopefully I didn't just turn off the screen. Sorry, I'm retiring, so I guess it's okay. I've always believed in, and I've always been so proud of our mission and our work to serve the people and the animals that rely on the quality of the state's waters. I want to thank and just express my gratitude for the board, the support of the board, our management, my amazing colleagues, some of whom are here, some have been retired for some time, and the ones who are working here now, the mentors, so many mentors I've had along the way. The stakeholders I've been fortunate to work with, and of course, my family, who are here and also online. So thank you so much for the resolution.
Can I say something real quick? Sue, I think you got it backwards. We're the ones that want to thank you. You don't need to thank us.
And I can tell, Sue, you're very uncomfortable up here under the bright lights and getting all this attention, but yeah, I think that's too damn bad, actually. Because we all needed to hear about your history here at the Water Board. So thank you for your service. And you have been so welcoming, I know, to all the new board members. When they come on, they meet Sue and they realize if you have any questions, that's the place to go. So thank you so much.
May I say something too? Yeah, and that word crowd definitely resonate and represent Sue. I have the honor to also work with her and getting help by her multiple times. And, you know, all those words are really representing her. And I'm just very thankful for her help and her guidance throughout the year. Congratulations on your retirement.
Yeah, and I'd like to just make a comment also. Mark, I just commend Sue. I mean, it was a surprise to hear today that she was stepping down. 36 years is, I can't even imagine, but she's done a tremendous job. One word I didn't see up there, just loving. That's what she has represented to me, and the work that she's done and her interactions, you know, professionally and just fun loving. She's done a tremendous job in all the 36 years in service. And as she mentioned, the stakeholders are even congratulating her on the quality of her work and the interaction and the collaboration. So kudos to you for a job well done and for the service you provided to the stakeholders, to the community, and protecting water quality. We're very grateful to have had you provide the support to our organization all of these years. Congratulations and enjoy your retirement. And get that swimming down too.
Go ahead. No, of course, go first.
Okay. Hey, Sue, I did try the mochi donuts that you recommended. Thank you for that. You know, I remember when I first met you, I just knew this place would be someplace special because you were just so warm and so knowledgeable with the ILRPs. And when we went and met with Tim, and I just knew you're like the Ted Lasso of the Central Valley.
We're going to do a vlog about that.
I just wanted just quickly to come up and say, I also just want to thank Sue. We became supervising engineers about the same time here at the Central Valley Water Board. And it was just amazing to be there with you, be co-managers and partners, and just to learn and grow together. You were a great support for me, and just to be able to come and talk to you and just ask questions, and you know, that is going to be everlasting. I just cannot express my gratitude of you being there for me during that time of transition. A lot going on just professionally and personally for me at that time. And to have someone like Sue to be a, you know, I say, you know, it's just not, it's more than a coworker or a colleague, but just someone who just, that word cloud just really emphasized who she is. And just to sit down and be able to talk to someone just about that work-life balance, and just about the transition of becoming from a senior engineer to a supervising engineer, and taking on that new role within the Central Valley and working with, you know, internally and external with our stakeholders and, you know, the programs of the Valley. It just was tremendous. And it's always meant so much to me, and it's been just great just to see you continue to succeed and just grow. And now, you know, to think that Sue's not going to be here when I come to visit is just, I can't express how, like, I don't know, just overwhelming that is, just to know that I'm not going to get to see her every other month. It's really hard, but I am so proud and just so, joy, just so much joy for this new road and path that you get to take. So please stay in touch, and thank you for the impact that you had on me and my career, and wishing you the best.
Thank you so much. I'm going to transition to yet another staff person with over 30 years of experience at the Central Valley Water Board. Dale, I know your word cloud would not look the same as Sue's word cloud. But what does jump out to me, and Dale has managed just about every program at the Fresno office, and has been called upon when vacancies open up to learn a new program, pilot it through, from the oil fields program to enforcement work that you're familiar with, to other areas in permitting. And though he's got a tough exterior and absolutely no nonsense, I would say one of the words that would show up on the word cloud would be kind. I know that even though he will bring a meeting back into focus in no time, he treats his staff with a level of professionalism and respect that has set the tone for the entire office. And really, I've looked to him for guidance on critical water quality issues. Again, primarily when we were working on some of the tougher water quality issues related with oil fields regulation in the Valley, and through numerous enforcement cases and some tough other regulatory issues that Fresno has in spades. Dale has been that voice there, has been that mentor to staff, and I'll miss him profoundly. It was always, kind of cool to come down to the Fresno office and see his motorcycle parked outside and have a chat with him and some of the other managers down there. So it is, with equal kind of congratulatory tones and also a little bit of sadness that we're wishing congratulations and presenting this resolution for Dale here today. And I would invite Christina to read this resolution for Dale. And you got to come up here.
I don't have a word cloud for Dale, but I am going to say a few things before I read the resolution. As you all know, I've been with the water boards for less than a year. And what they didn't tell me when they hired me was that I would be responsible for preparing a resolution for somebody who is a giant, one of the pillars of the water board. And so I want everybody to know that these words are not just mine. They are mine, but they're not just mine. Our entire Fresno team contributed. And we are a very reticent group in Fresno, very avoidant of the public speeches, but very privately effusive in our appreciation and respect for Dale. And I've thought a lot about honor. And today is, our opportunity to honor a man who deserves it. We regard him with great respect, and we hold him in the highest esteem. And he, in turn, defines honor by always maintaining an adherence to what is right. And it has been my privilege to work with him over this past year. And with that, whereas William Dale Harvey began his illustrious career at the Central Valley Water Board on June 1st, 1993, as the Water Resource Control Engineer. Dale claims a bachelor's degree in Environmental Resources Engineering from Humboldt State University and a master's degree in Civil Engineering from California State University, Fresno. Dale will retire from the Central Valley Water Board on August 30th, 2024, concluding over 30 years of public service to the people of California. Whereas Dale began, continued, and will complete his water board service working in the Central Valley Water Board's Fresno office. Dale joined the Fresno office as a water resource control engineer in the regulatory unit, but quickly became famous throughout the Central Valley, not only for his engineering acumen, but also for rumors of his general resemblance to a giant among his more vertically challenged coworkers. Like the reclusive Yeti, however, Dale has always prioritized the environment over public acclaim. Whereas on May 20th, 2015, Dale promoted to supervising water resource control engineer and provided critical leadership for the newly expanded oil fields program and played a key role in shaping it into the program that it is today. The Central Valley is home to more than 85% of California's oil fields, producing an average of over 460,000 barrels per day, and is the 7th largest oil producer in the United States. Whereas Dale has managed all but one of the programs in the Fresno office during his career, his institutional knowledge is unmatched and his mentorship has been invaluable to many. In 2023, Dale was recruited to lead the Fresno office compliance and enforcement efforts and serve as a trusted advisor to the newest assistant executive officer. Whereas much of the knowledge of Dale's early career has become mythic, passed down in reverent whispers and water cooler gossip. Always focused on the board's mission, Dale could be counted on in his early days to break up disruptive office chit-chat with an abrupt, "What does this have to do with water quality?" After an early performance review described him as brusque, Dale admits to looking up the definition and, after consideration, acknowledged it was a fair assessment. Dale attributes his forthrightness to an early background as a firefighter, a paramedic, and a landscape contractor, all of which value economy and speed in communication in the implementation of their professional skills. Whereas some of Dale's favorite words and phrases will forever be missed at the board and will certainly be carried on by others, such as, see me, back the truck up, and Fresburg. Whereas, as a man who values evidence and truth, and because there is a non-zero chance he may one day be proved wrong, Dale never hesitated to set aside personal ego for the greater good. Because Dale is a reliable source of straight talk, blunt observations, and genuine intentions, and strong values, he has earned the respect of his coworkers, stakeholders, and this board. Whereas Dale is an avid outdoorsman, hiking and backpacking much of the Sierra Nevada and the national parks, a motorcycle aficionado, rarely missing a Street Vibrations rally in Nevada each year, and a devoted husband, father, and grandfather. Whereas Dale's commitment to high quality work, leadership, and mentoring has enriched the Central Valley Water Board staff and programs. His insight and counsel will be truly missed by all of us. Water quality in the Central Valley has benefited tremendously from Dale's priceless contributions to the board and its mission. We are and always will be fans of the man, the myth, the legend. Therefore, be it resolved that the members of the Central Valley Water Board and its staff respectfully extend to Dale on the occasion of his retirement our sincere thanks and appreciation for a job well done, and the Central Valley Water Board wishes Dale clear skies and happy trails in his future adventures.
Well, I wouldn't say anything, but I know I'm kind of expected to. It's been a long road, 6 executive officers, 18, 20 OCC attorneys, I think 4 or 5 board chairs. But it's been a good road. My only regret is that I had to follow Sue today. But I agree with everything that everybody said about her. And I just want to thank the board for giving me this opportunity, this career. It's been a blessing. And I'm sure that things will motor on. The show will go on. It's been wonderful working with as many brilliant, kind, caring people at this agency. Anyway, thank you.
Let's go get a picture, and let's also get a picture with Sue. Nicole, you want to come up for this?
I'd just like to add my thanks to you, Dale. I haven't worked with you directly, but you've been there a long time. I'm surprised there's been that many board chairs, considering Dr. Longley was here for almost an eternity. And I'm glad you have so many activities to keep you busy in retirement. Sounds like Sue does as well. I retired 8 years ago, and I found out I'm pretty good at it. So enjoy your retirement.
If I may also add a comment. Some of you may or may not know, but I'm originally from Fresno, live most of my life in Fresno. And I could sincerely say that even though that I haven't worked with you directly, but I've been a beneficiary from your leadership and the Fresno team, been a constituent as well. So I just want to also give you my sincere thank you and appreciation for your work. Thank you and congratulations on your retirement.
Okay, and this is Denise here, just like to give a comment. When I came to the board in 2014, my first tour in April 2015 was the oil fields, and Dale was the person that took me on the tour. And we've had a few tours there. And we worked on numerous projects, the Food Safety Committee and so many others. But Dale, I've enjoyed having you and your work. Your expertise has been great. You always were just solid with what you presented and the quality of your work, and just appreciate knowing you. And it's going to be some big shoes to fill for you stepping out of this light, but we appreciate the service you provided to the board and the service you provided to the public. It's been tremendous, and we really appreciate you, congratulate you, and of course we'll miss you, and have a great retirement. Make sure you have something planned to do. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You want to do it? Yeah, let's do a big one.
Waiting, Patrick.
Thanks, Patrick. Thank you, Sue. Thank you, Dale. We're going to take a break here in a minute and then we'll finish up with the agenda. I did have one question. I don't know if we can address it now or maybe in October regarding the park fire.
Yeah.
I just was reading last night about the potential for debris flows and so on from a little front that's passing through this week. So maybe we could talk about that now or later. I don't know.
Absolutely. I think we can talk about it now. I mean, Clint's here. Our team, whenever there's a significant wildfire, we're engaged in activities with CAL FIRE, Governor's Office of Emergency Services, and other entities to do primarily assessment of risk after the fire, after the flames have died down. We always are kind of particularly interested in impacts to drinking water systems that may be downstream. Most systems would have to shut off if there's high turbidity or flows or things of that nature. Unfortunately, even if there are kind of debris flows, it's something that most of these water bodies have experienced in the past 5 years or so. Mill Creek, the Feather, other areas, they've burned previously, and so we're looking. We'll be assessing impacts. We'll be using our resources to try and figure out if and when remediation can occur. Where would it be most effective? But to a certain extent, when you have a landscape level fire that's as big as the fires we're seeing right now, there's only a limited amount you can do. And it's really just try and do assessments, try and protect sensitive receptors and let drinking water systems know what's coming. And hopefully you just hope for gentle rain and gradual rain that will allow the landscape to recover. But this is something, unfortunately, that is becoming an annual occurrence through hundreds of thousands of acres each year in California and in our region.
Okay, thanks, Patrick. Yeah, I know the watershed includes some spawning habitat that's going to be impacted. But
Absolutely.
like you said, I mean, it's happened before and somehow the fish have survived. So hopefully this won't be.
Yeah. No, I think, again, I'm not a fisheries specialist by any stretch of the imagination, but you look at how salmonids have been adapting, and it's rough. And I think it's particularly rough when you see decreased snowpack and high temperature for trout and salmonid population. And it's one of the reasons why you see, in the springtime, spring run Chinook is kind of teetering on the edge. And so further impacts to potential spawning habitat, it's kind of a double whammy. They're dealing with higher temperatures. The snow melt tends to happen quicker because we heat up a little quicker. The snowpack tends to be lower most years. So it's just a variety of stressors that are impacting those salmonid habitats, and wildfire and the silt and sedimentation that can cover up redds or cover up spawning habitat is just one more thing that they have to deal with. So I will encourage everybody to, and I can send a link, but Natural Resources put out, I think it's the salmon strategy. There's a, kind of the strategy for the hotter, drier California. About 4 or 5 months ago, Natural Resources put out their salmon strategy. And it's really just trying to adapt to all those stressors on those salmonid habitats, including, what happens when they go into the ocean as well. So lots happening.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. And with that, I think we'll let's make it a 10-minute break and be back at about 10:25. Thank you. Okay, I hate to break it all up, but let's get back to business, as Dale would say. So Patrick's gonna lead us off here with agenda item 10, the end of year report and update on the racial equity goals.
All right. Can we bring up the presentation, Chief?
Yeah, this is an information item only and no action will be taken, although the board may ask questions and provide direction to staff. After the presentation, interested persons will be allowed 3 minutes each to address the board. And now we'll hear from Patrick.
Thank you so much. This year we'll do this a little differently. I know I said that last year as well. No video shorts from the program managers, which they're very grateful for skipping this past year. But what we're going to be talking about today is really a couple things. We have a very extensive, and click the slide. I don't know if you, we have the portfolio management process that guides the implementation, setting of program objectives, and how each and every one of the staff persons within this office plans their work and their targets for the course of the year. As you can see on the screen, this is kind of the process of how we go about setting objectives, setting priority projects. I bring them before the board in December. January through June, we develop annual work plans at the executive level. All year long, we implement that work plan. And again, the fiscal year for the state starts on July 1st. And then in August, we report back to the board on the implementation of the prior year's work plan. Click. So what has changed in how I'm presenting information for you today is in 2023, in December, we adopted a regional racial equity resolution that added racial equity goals to each and every one of the 19 water quality programs that we oversee at the Central Valley Water Board. We'll be reporting back on the achievement of those racial equity goals in this presentation here today. It won't touch each and every one of the water quality programs, just some of the highlights. And click the slide. But there's one other thing that I want to present for you today, and that has to do with some of the budget cuts that are affecting our agency. Click. We received notice just a couple weeks ago that about 5% of this agency's workforce will be trimmed due to the budget situation at the state of California. We know that many of these positions are actually funded through fees, through federal funds, or through cost recovery. But from the perspective of the Department of Finance, the governor's pledge to eliminate 10,000 jobs from the state workforce was just that, to eliminate 10,000 jobs from the state workforce, regardless of the funding source. And so that is actually having a pretty profound impact on a few programs in particular in this upcoming fiscal year. So the priority projects that are presented in December have been altered and will be altered. Realistically, that's kind of what the portfolio management process is there for. If there are shocks to the system, if there's a global pandemic, if we get resources into the program, we can adjust those targets on the fly. The executive management team will work with the program managers to adjust where our resources are being spent. And that also goes for significant fires. If there's any other natural disaster, the floods, we can adjust those targets based on the portfolio management framework. Click the slide. We also were lucky enough to get a few positions in a few areas under the most recent budget that was enacted by the legislature. So while there is a subtraction of a significant amount of staff, we are getting a few back in a few specific areas, and I'll cover those areas and how we will be adjusting accordingly. I will say I will be outsourcing most of this presentation to members of the racial equity team that I've been working with behind the scenes scenes. I appreciate their patience because I was adjusting this presentation right up until the last minute, fairly late last night, dragged the rest of them along with the process, but they've been excellent at providing insight throughout this process. They come from both the managerial ranks and from staff ranks across all three offices. You'll hear them introduce Marisol Gonzalez, Katie Gilman, who you heard from earlier, receiving the award, Adriana Ross, JJ Baum, Petra Lee, Rebecca Asami, and Sue McConnell. At this point, I think is the emeritus member of the team who has been working with us as well. And I will now turn it over to Marisol.
Good morning, Chair Bradford and members of the board. My name's Marisol Gonzalez, and I'm an engineering geologist working in the board's Reading office in the MPDS Permitting and Enforcement Unit. As Patrick stated, Budget Letter 2420 has resulted in the elimination of positions in the planning, cannabis, cleanup, non-15, confined animals, non-point source, and forest activities programs. As you will see later in this presentation, the cuts to the cannabis program were balanced out by additions from the current legislative year. The legislature also allocated new resources to address waters that lost their federal jurisdiction under the Supreme Court's 2023 Sackett decision. And we received new resources to assist in permitting stormwater infiltration projects. We were also able to retain a position associated with the nitrate control in Fresno. Next slide, please. We'll first go through those programs that will grow in the next fiscal year. Next slide. First, the CV Salts program. As you know, CV Salts stands for Central Valley Salinity Alternatives for Long-Term Sustainability. This is a stakeholder-driven effort to address salt and nitrate accumulation in the valley. This program works to ensure safe drinking water supplies, reduce salt and nitrate loading to protect beneficial uses, and implement long-term managed restoration of impaired water bodies. The board created a senior position in Fresno to help with the nitrate control program, and this position was retained as the board prioritized resource. Next slide, please. I think we went. Okay. In
I got it, Jean. So.
Okay. In 23-24, the primary racial equity goal for CV Salts program was to implement the nitrate control program. This goal was achieved. In Priority 1 areas, CV Salts staff reviewed management zone proposals, issued completeness letters, and conducted a hearing to hear concerns about the next phase of the project. Priority 2 efforts got underway in 23-24. The board issued notices to comply to all nitrate dischargers in Priority 2 areas. This means that Priority 2 management zones are currently forming to develop well testing and safe drinking water delivery programs in Priority 2 areas. These goals remain the same for 24-25. Implement the nitrate control program, work on adopting permits that require nitrate load reductions, and ensure that drinking water programs are established in the nitrate impact areas. I will now turn this presentation over to Katie. Thank you.
Next slide. Good morning, Chair Bradford and members of the board. My name is Katie Gilman, and I am an engineering geologist in the board's non-point source activities unit in the Reading office. The Central Valley Water Board's cannabis regulatory program regulates waste discharges associated with cannabis cultivation and provides oversight over 1,000 regulated sites. Last year, in addition to numerous inspections, many conducted under law enforcement warrants, the program conducted 12 multi-county outreach efforts and initiated a major enforcement effort in Nevada County. The effects of the budget were complicated for the cannabis program. On paper, the program has lost 4 positions and gained 4 positions. However, 3 of the positions that the board lost were already frozen due to revenue shortfalls and cannabis fees. So the board will still be able to have a much stronger field presence in the next year. Nearly all counties in the Central Valley prohibit the cultivation of cannabis, yet cannabis operations are still widespread. Many of these sites are cultivated by persons who do not speak English as their first language, but receiving information on proper mitigation, even though these sites are illegal, can help prevent significant water quality impacts. The 23-24 racial equity goal for the cannabis program was to translate important information into languages other than English to help reach out to these cultivators. The board, with the Office of Public Participation, to record presentations on water quality mitigation in Spanish and Hmong to help achieve this goal. In 24-25, the cannabis program proposes to conduct enrollment enforcement in priority watersheds, works to reduce case backlog, and continue multilingual outreach initiatives. The stormwater program enforces general construction and industrial stormwater permits issued by the State Water Board. In 23-24, regional board inspectors working in this program conducted 454 construction inspections, 355 industrial inspections, and 23 municipal inspections or audits. This program is also tasked with writing permit requirements for municipal separate stormwater systems, or MS4s, for large municipalities in the region. These requirements require municipalities to minimize non-stormwater discharges into their storm sewers. Most large cities in the Central Valley are regulated under a general permit. A major permitting effort is underway to update this permit, and the permit amendments are scheduled to come before the board in December. The board also will receive one staff person to help implement stormwater capture initiatives that will help replenish groundwater in many municipalities. The stormwater program sought to incorporate Cal EnviroScreen as a prioritization tool as its racial equity goal for 23-24. The goal was achieved and will continue to be refined into 24-25. When developing priority sites, industrial stormwater inspections take into consideration potential impacts for environmental justice communities, as well as traditional metrics like benchmark water quality exceedances, repeated failures to submit reports, and failures to collect water quality samples. I will now turn the presentation over to Brandon.
Good morning, Chair Bradford and members of the board. My name is Brandon Salazar, and I'm a water resource control engineer in the board's Fresno office, working in the water quality certifications unit. The water quality certifications program regulates the removal or placement of materials in wetlands and waterways of the state. Projects regulated by this program generally require a permit from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, which requires a state certification issued pursuant to Section 401 of the Clean Water Act. In 23-24, the program issued 275 new water quality certifications and oversaw over 1,300 active projects. The water quality certifications program will gain new staff persons that will assist in the development of permits for dredge and fill materials that will occur in water bodies that are no longer considered subject to federal jurisdiction. The staff will also assist in enforcement actions in non-jurisdictional waters. Next slide, please. The Water Quality Certification Program's 23-24 racial equity goal was to enhance the public's understanding of the water quality certification process. In the past, the program has fielded questions from tribes and community groups about how they could comment on these actions, and commenting on these actions starts with an understanding of the process itself. This goal is in progress. In 23-24, staff completed first draft of a permitting options flowchart and began to use Cal EnviroScreen to understand impacts to disadvantage and environmental justice communities. In the upcoming year, staff plan to continue to develop and deploy the permitting options flowchart and will continue to integrate use of Cal EnviroScreen and other tools for inspection prioritization. The program will also work to advance important habitat restoration and enhancement projects throughout the region. And as staff working in this program, I want to say that the Small Habitat General Order and the recently approved statewide Restoration General Order, otherwise known as SERGO, have been really critical in implementing that last part for our program. So next slide, please. Oh, okay. So now we'll go through those programs that were impacted by the recent cuts. Next slide. The Waste Discharge to Land program regulates waste discharges that may affect groundwater quality and is the oldest state water quality control program. Over 1,400 facilities are regulated by this program. This past year, the program brought 10 individual permits to the board for its consideration, renewed a low threat waiver, and enrolled 56 facilities under general orders. However, this program will be absorbing a cut of 2 PYs, 1 permit rider, and 1 person that has been tasked with working on recycled water projects. Next slide, please. The program's 23-24 racial equity goal was tied to implementation of Assembly Bill 2108. This bill added section 131-492 to the Water Code, which requires the regional board to conduct additional outreach in disadvantaged communities and to make those findings on environmental justice, tribal impact, and racial equity considerations when issuing permits. This goal was achieved for permits adopted in 23-24. The team will continue to meet with the Office of Chief Counsel and the Office of Public Participation to ensure consistent implementation of these new requirements. The program is also working on developing a priority decision matrix to help guide permit updates that prioritize addressing impacts in underserved communities. In 24-25, the program will continue to implement the provisions of AB 2108, work on transitioning the proposals in the nitrate control program to enforceable permit provisions, and will continue to develop general orders to address mid-size POTWs, nut drying and hulling operations, and fruit and vegetable packing facilities. However, the program will continue to assess whether these will be achievable with the more limited resources at the program's disposal. I will now turn the presentation over to Adriana. Next slide, please.
Good morning, everybody. Chair Bradford and members of the board. My name is Adriana Ross, a program analyst in the board's Fresno office and the board Fresno Tribal Liaison. The mines program regulates 106 mine sites with known or potentially water quality impacts. Discharges of water from these mine sites can have devastating effects on receiving waters and can significantly limit beneficial uses for miles downstream. This past year, the staff in the program conducted 47 mine inspections to assess sites, conditions, and compliance. Work behind the scenes to assist the US EPA and DTSC in efforts to help place Afterthought Mine on the NPL list and made significant progress on a number of priority sites, including Sulphur Bank Mine on the shores of Clear Lake. However, the program will be absorbing a loss of one of its positions in the Rancho Cordova office this year. Next slide, please. The program's racial equity goal is to incorporate a consideration of threats to water quality with metrics assessing disproportionately environmental burden into case prioritization. In support of this goal, the program developed an individual action plan guidance. This guidance will use in engaging with disadvantaged communities and tribes on mine sites that will both help prioritize sites and will help solicit feedback from impacted communities. For next year, the goal is to continue work in this area. Next slide, please. The planning program is one of the most far-reaching programs at the board. Staff in this program work on CV salts, tribal beneficial uses, and biostimulatory projects. Unfortunately, this program was significantly impacted by this year's cuts, losing 2 PY from the Mercury Metals unit. Next slide, please. Thank you. The board is also changing how we track program goals within the planning program and are now differentiating work done in service of TMDLs. The TMDL program utilizes planning staff to assist in the development and implementation of total maximum daily loads, projects that help restore impacted waterways. This program currently works on methylmercury and pesticides water quality impairments. This past year, the program issued a long-awaited Delta Mercury Control Program assessment for peer review and developed a draft pyrethroid research plan. Next slide, please. This program's racial equity goal will be likely to be impacted by the budget cuts. In 23-24, the program proposed a project to update basin plans with reference to Cal Enviro screen and other racial equity resolution references. This will be considered in the next triennial review. However, work on TBUs may be delayed due to the loss of key personnel. So I'll now turn the presentation to JJ, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Adriana. Good morning, Chair Bradford and members of the board. In my role as Assistant Executive Officer, I indirectly oversee program staff in the Rancho office that inspect a large portfolio of dairies and other confined animal facilities. Confined animal facilities are ranches where livestock are held and provided food for a significant part of the time. Region-wide, the program conducted 226 inspections and worked to ensure that all CAFs were in compliance with CV salts directives. Unfortunately, this program will lose 1 PY in the most recent round of budget cuts. Next slide. Furthermore, we were planning on conducting outreach in disadvantaged communities as part of an effort to revise the Dairy General Order. Unfortunately, this order is still pending before the State Water Board, and we were unable to conduct this outreach. We anticipate that the dairy petition order will be issued by the State Water Board in 24-25. So we'll be belatedly addressing the goal in the upcoming year. The program also proposes to continue to participate in California Department of Food and Agriculture's grant program, facilitating digesters and alternative manure management technologies. I'll now turn the presentation over to Petra.
Good morning, Chair Bradford and members of the board. My name is Petra Lee, and I am a senior environmental scientist in the Rancho Cordova Irrigated Lands Regulatory Program. There are approximately 16 million acres of federal and non-federal forested lands within the Central Valley region. The Forest Activities Program seeks to prevent impacts to surface water due to discharges of pollutants related to forest land management, such as sediment, petroleum products, pesticides and herbicides, and other waste materials. This past year, the program continued progress on a project to develop an advanced pesticide lab methodology that will give us a better idea of potential pesticide impairments in remote watersheds. The program also developed a proposed permit to regulate those forested lands that fall under the jurisdiction of the U.S. Forest Service and Bureau of Land Management. The program lost personnel in the Redding office due to the recent budget cuts. Next slide. The Forest Activities Program set a goal of working to develop staff understanding of Cal Enviro screen within the program. This was achieved. Forest Activities Program staff have been trained on the use of Cal Enviro screen tools and continue to look forward to the newest version that will include wildfire risk relative to disadvantaged communities. Since the majority of forested lands in the region lie in areas of disadvantaged communities and the scale of detail within the current version is limited in non-urban areas, this additional layer of information will aid the program's focus. Until the newest version is released, staff are utilizing analytical and spatial tools provided by CAL FIRE's Fire and Resource Assessment Program, FRAP. In the upcoming year, the program anticipates continuing to work on the pesticide lab methodology development project, streamlining commercial timber harvest reviews, and bringing the federal permit for board consideration in December. Next slide, please. The Site Cleanup Program, or SCP, regulates and oversees the investigation and cleanup of contaminated sites. Many properties are in urban areas and environmental justice communities, and cleanup often results in contaminant removal, reduced impacts to water, and economic growth. The program achieved a lot of successes in the last year, including the removal of over 20 million pounds of contaminants from the environment, the review of over 500 characterization reports, regulatory closure was granted to 31 projects, and enrollment of 5 new projects in Site Cleanup Sub-Account Program, SCAP. The program suffered the loss of 2 personnel during the latest cut, so these performance numbers may not be achievable in the upcoming year. Next slide. The Site Cleanups Program's racial equity goal was to conduct staff training on CalEnviroScreen tools and develop outreach guidance for disadvantaged communities. This goal was achieved. The program not only developed instruction documents for accessing and using equity tools for CalEnviroScreen in GeoTracker, it also worked with OPP's linguistic isolation tool to better identify language translation needs for communities affected by the board's cleanup and closure decisions. In 24-25, the program will continue to develop a site cleanup program site ranking system, and will work on the SCAP funding alignment for cases in disadvantaged communities, and will review public outreach procedures to ensure affected communities will receive all relevant information to help them participate in our cleanup decision. Next slide, please. I'll now turn the presentation to Rebecca for a discussion of a few objectives in a couple of programs that were thankfully spared from this year's budget cuts. Next slide.
Good morning, Chair Bradford and members of the board. My name is Rebecca Asami, and I am a senior engineering geologist in Fresno's oil field program. The board's administrative program oversees the human resources and facilities management needs of the regional board. It works with over 50 managers to assist throughout the hiring process and make sure that the 3 offices are stocked and provisioned to address the needs of our region. It has set forth a goal of providing constant, reliable administrative assistance to our customers, both internally and externally, while applying the highest standards and ethics. One of the most significant achievements of the program over the past year has been overseeing major moves in the Rancho Cordova office in furtherance of an office space reduction and optimization plan that will see the office footprint shrink significantly. Next slide. The administrative program pledged to coordinate with State Water Board on the development of resources and guides to assist hiring managers in support of the Racial Equity Work Plan. This work is ongoing as the State Board continues to enhance hiring managers' toolkits, all in furtherance of making sure that our workforce is reflective of the communities that it serves. In 24-25, the admin program will continue to work with the State Water Board in the development of resources and guides to assist hiring managers with equitable recruitment efforts. It will also continue to work with State Board's Division of Administrative Services and the Department of General Services, or DGS, to redesign and reconfigure the Rancho Cordova's office space and relocate the Fresno office. Next slide. Thank you. Now I'll talk about the oil fields program. Most California oil production occurs in the Central Valley. Formation water produced with oil, known as produced wastewater, comprises the largest volume of waste generated by oil production. Produced wastewater is typically highly saline and is disposed of by land application, primarily ponds, or via underground injection. The oil field program regulates oil field discharges to ensure the protection of surface and groundwaters and reviews proposed aquifer exemption applications, UIC permits, and SB4 related groundwater monitoring programs to ensure activities are protective of water quality. This past year, the program approved 16 pond closure work plans, closed 3 facilities that previously used ponds for produced wastewater disposal, conducted 95 inspections, and reviewed 3 aquifer exemptions. Next slide. The program's primary racial equity goal was to increase outreach to better understand impacts to residents within and near the oil fields, and to inform those residents of opportunities to provide input on our work. That goal is in progress. In 24-25, the program completed an inventory list showing locations of all oil field projects within our region. And it is now working to use CalEnviroScreen and other demographic databases to identify BIPOC and DIC communities impacted by our program for outreach efforts and case prioritization. Once priority sites have been identified, program staff will then begin planning for potential outreach meetings with communities near high priority sites to provide information regarding our work and the work being performed. Next slide. Thank you. I'll now turn it over to Patrick to answer any questions that you might have.
I know there's a lot there.
I guess overall, Patrick, I mean, these budget cuts are going to stress the organization, obviously, in certain areas. Where do you see the biggest threats lie, I guess?
You know,
looking
I
forward?
I think a lot of what's happened with the agency and the agency as a whole, we're still recovering. I'm strongly encouraging the State Water Board to essentially do a damage assessment. You know, to a certain extent, the cuts that were made to our agency were based off of we keep a relatively low vacancy rate, and essentially a lot of the vacancies were swept. For the past 5-6 months, knowing that this was coming, we tried to be strategic about positions that we filled. But nonetheless, you know, the cuts happened in a few areas that are going to be tough to absorb. I think the site cleanup program, losing 2 personnel, 1 in Fresno, 1 in Rancho Cordova, is a pretty big deal, especially considering that those are funded by polluters, as you well know. So I think I hope to have justification forward to reauthorize positions in that area. The planning program is another area that got hit particularly hard. We have a unit that did phenomenal work, got at the peer review out for the Delta Methyl Mercury Control Plan. And I think there's a handful of staff within that program that were trying to finish that before they looked for other opportunities. They did that. And so and a lot of them got great promotional opportunities. That's fantastic. But it just so happened that, you know, in this game of musical chairs, when the music stopped, that program had 3 out of 5 positions vacant. We tried to fill 1 of them, but still it'll be 2 out of 5 positions vacant. And so those positions were permanently gone. And so we'll have to kind of adapt resources, kind of address them statewide, talk with the State Water Board. Again, I'm really encouraging the State Water Board to essentially do a gut check. It hit every organization in the water board system, but it hit it unevenly. You know, the resources that we lost aren't necessarily the same as the resources other regions lost. And overall, we are more under-resourced in virtually every program area, you know, in terms of permits per permit writer or inspection sites per inspector than any other region in the state. So the state hits us a little harder. And so we have to kind of go through one more round of prioritization and make sure that we're cutting in ways that, you know, still protect the most valuable resources within our region.
Okay, thank you. It sounds like a pretty significant challenge moving forward. I think you used the term, we're going to have to do a little less with less this time around with
I think that's the message that we have to give. You know, it's one of those things where as a manager, I'm often tempted to say we're going to do more with less. We're going to do more with less. But we run a very lean operation here at the Central Valley and have been prioritizing in extreme ways for frankly, for about 20, 30 years. When we created, say, for example, when we created the Irrigated Lands Program, we took resources from one program and created that program, whole new regulatory program, and those resources never kind of were backfilled. That actually impacted the Non-15 program quite a bit. And then we did that with a couple other projects that we were asked to take on over the years. We keep borrowing from Peter to pay Paul within this region. And, at the end of the day, we're kind of starved in a few areas. So that means we will do what we can to make sure that the highest priorities are addressed. But other projects may just take longer than we'd like them to. Staff have been doing an incredible job. And I think the message that, a twofold message, again, to staff that I've been saying is the budget letters that have been issued by the governor and Department of Finance in no way suggest that there will be layoffs, and they are very adamant that pay cuts are not on the horizon. So it could be worse. It could be much worse. We value the job stability here. I know just about everybody in this organization is being paid a little less than they would be if they're in the private sector, but we are not ushering people out the door, and we're trying to build what we have internally. The other component here is, frankly, every crisis serves as an opportunity to really do a gut check on our core values, make sure that we're really addressing the needs and the nice to haves maybe put on the wayside. Now, we've been doing that a lot. We've been doing that since the Great Recession. We've been doing that since the pandemic. So we're kind of used to the drill by now. But that said, there's always an opportunity to see where we have the ability to utilize tools that were not available to us before, to potentially streamline things, and to see what we can do. But at the end of the day, you're exactly right. We have to say we are probably going to do less with the less that we have available.
Okay, well, thank you. Are there any other comments or questions, Sean?
Yeah, good afternoon. Chair Bradford already touched upon the budget cut, and I like what I heard from you, Patrick. Very optimistic about that. Working with less, and seeing that we have a very talented staff behind you, so very positive about that. I love the presentation. There's a lot of green mark on achieve goals. Very happy, and according to our discussions a few days ago, the racial equity program is not going to be hit as well regarding the budget cut, from my understanding, and that due to working with less of what we have. And so I'm very thrilled. So I just want to thank you and the rest of the staff for a fabulous job, and let us know if you need anything.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, just to emphasize the point that you just made, and it was a strategic decision within this organization to really make sure that we didn't have an equity program per se. There's not, 2 or 3 people that we set aside and said, these are the equity people within our region. Rather, the task is spread around each and every individual within this organization to, really look at what they're doing through an equity lens as they go about doing their work. And to be frank, a lot of it aligns with the work that they were doing beforehand. It's just kind of, as you've seen through this presentation, a lot of what we, after doing that gut check, after looking at what we do on a day-to-day basis, if we're doing our jobs right, we really are, kind of helping to balance the scales, clean up pollution in disadvantaged communities. The industrial stormwater program, most industrial sites are within disadvantaged communities. So when we try to make sure that that those sites are not causing localized impacts, we're protecting disadvantaged communities. What you did see, throughout this presentation was an effort to really make sure that the staff working on an individual project did that last check, looked at CalEnviroscreen, understand the languages, the demographics of the communities that they're, reviewing a report for, and then go the extra mile to outreach within those communities and to hear what folks have to say. I have no doubt that, you know, the commenter that came forward this morning was kind of a product of those efforts. You know, the folks working on Bonzi landfill really want to make sure that the people who were affected by the decision, in that case, somebody who is receiving drinking water by virtue of a settlement, and was here to share his comments. And, you know, our team talked with him afterwards and kind of explained what's happening with the landfill and plugged him into future actions where his voice could be heard. So that, you know, again, it's not a radical shift in what we're doing as an organization, and it's not a special compartment of the organization, but rather it's spread out among all staff and is being kind of institutionalized through trainings and kind of a better understanding of the communities that we serve. And again, my thanks go out to everybody online who helped out with this presentation, and really applaud your efforts.
Yeah, it's always nice to hear from staff and have them give an opportunity to speak to these programs before the board. You know, I thought I was going to mention the racial equity lens that was applied and discussed for each of these. It was encouraging to see that it's evolved quite a bit, at least in the public forum anyway. I think it's been there for a long time, and some of the tools that are available. I never had heard of a linguistic isolation tool, but that's pretty impressive to add to CalEnviroscreen. So thanks to everybody that was involved in that presentation.
All right.
Yeah, I wanted to just make a comment. Yeah, the budget situation is something nobody looks forward to, but Patrick, as you shared with us the other day on our briefing, you know, you've done everything you could to try to lessen the impact, and we have such a dynamic staff to the extent that I think we're working with less, but you'll manage to carry on the work that needs to be done. So I appreciate that. And then also just in regards to the racial equity, the fact that this resolution was adopted in 2023, you've incorporated racial equity within all of the programming. I think, and then to see some achievements and things that are moving forward, I'm encouraged by that. I think it's important. And as you said, many of the impacts and the work you do are in the disadvantaged community. So you're continuing to do the work, but just having that racial equity tone there, a part of it, you're continuing to move things forward and find ways to engage and do outreach to those communities that are impacted. So I'm glad to see that. And then lastly, I just wanted to comment that gosh, I kind of lost my train of thought there, but I just think that dealing with the work that we have before us, we'll continue to try to move forward and figure out ways to address the needs of ensuring that we have water quality and work within the means that we have. And I continue to appreciate the work that you guys have before you and that you do on behalf of our Central Valley constituents. So I appreciate your presentation. And then from when we started out with these presentations, from the long 2.5 hours to each management group doing a presentation to now, it's a good snapshot. So you're continuing to make adjustments in the annual presentations, and I appreciate that. You still provide the information that we need to see, and continue to do the good job at your presentations. I think it helps us and it helps the public see the quality work that you do. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Mark, one more thing. Patrick, did I see a slide listing equitable employment?
The administrative team is working on that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I, for one, for sure remember that discussion with you maybe a few years ago. And I think that speaks the great leadership that you have, that really taking the recommendation from the board seriously. And I've seen it just walking to this office as well, as far as diversity. And to me, you know, it brings a very a happiness to me, because we are talking about racial equity program. And that is what it is right there, bringing the people that represents it. And I just want to thank you. Yeah, great job.
All right.
Okay, thanks, Mindy. Were there any members of the public that wanted to comment on this agenda item?
I don't believe so, but if there's anybody online, please raise your hand if you'd like to speak.
We are not seeing any hands raised.
Okay, thank you. Then I think we're down to our last agenda item. Summary of wastewater needs assessment. It's an informational item only. And we'll hear a summary from Dania Jimerson, Senior Water Resource Control Engineer from the DWQ at the State Water Board. This is an information item only and no action will be taken, although the board may ask questions and provide direction to staff. So I don't know if I pronounced your name correctly, but please go ahead with your presentation. Thank you.
And we'll give Nick. There you go. I'm sure Nicole is wearing many hats here, but I did want to invite Nicole to just say a couple words about this wastewater needs assessment, because I know you were instrumental in getting this off the ground. And you know, the Central Valley thanks you for bringing focus to this. And with that, go for it.
And thank you. Apologies. I will be in the Central Valley next week and am lining up a few stops to make sure that I am touring and keeping up to date on all that is happening in the southern part of the valley. So just making sure that I have that all scheduled and aligned. So I'll be out there, I believe, Tuesday evening through Thursday or Friday. So a lot happening in the state and within the Central Valley. So, thank you, Patrick, and thank you, Danya. If you know me, this is like such an exciting effort that is happening here, this wastewater needs assessment. You'll hear it in my voice. I am like the wastewater geek, and I get really excited about when we start talking about wastewater, and I could talk forever, and I apologize that I will not do that. So, having worked in the wastewater field for over 25 years, this just really makes me really excited. And it's not often that, we have an item where we can come together and we start talking about wastewater and there's actually excitement about it. And there's this big effort that's happening. So, if we look back in 2012, California became the first state to recognize the human right to water, declaring every human being has the right to safe, clean, affordable, and accessible water, adequate for human consumption, cooking, and sanitary purposes. In 2016, the state board identified the human right to water as a top priority and core value of the water boards. 3 years later, the state board began conducting annual drinking water needs assessment, advancing the human right to water. In 2022, we then adopted a resolution authorizing a multiple-year contract to conduct a wastewater needs assessment. So I just want to provide a few facts. There are estimated 3,000 domestic municipal wastewater collection and treatment systems permitted by the water boards through individual or general waste discharge requirements or NPDES permits. So just think about that, 3,000. And a lot of those are in the Central Valley. There's many. In addition, the 2015 American Housing Survey estimates that 6.4% of California households reported not as being connected to sewer systems, resulting in an estimated 1.2 to 2.5 million on-site treatment systems in California. So think about that also, 1.2 to 2.5 million. I mean, that's an estimate, and that's like double. There's a lot of uncertainty there. I know the Central Valley's been doing great work of implementing the program to really understand what is out there, what's being managed by the counties, and getting an understanding of how many systems are, we say on site, and we're talking about septic systems, on-site wastewater systems, individual households, and sometimes there could be a community system that are out there that are not connected. How many households are not connected to a sanitary sewer system? So the safe management of human waste through these wastewater sanitation systems is critical, or is crucial for ensuring human and environmental health. The water boards lack a comprehensive set of data for California's wastewater sanitation systems and locations or service boundaries, citing the design characteristics, network connections between facilities and upstream and downstream users, nexus to drinking water sources and associated risks, current population served, infrastructure failures, and associated repair costs, the factors to inform technical, managerial, financial capacity of the system owners or operators to support the development of statewide wastewater needs assessment. So, that's a lot. The state board recognizes that without collecting a comprehensive set of data of California's wastewater systems, determining comprehensive solutions, and identifying costs associated with addressing systems at risk and of threatening public health goals will remain unsolved. It's really important that we understand what is happening with our wastewater systems. They're underground. They're not seen every day. I remember being trained back when I was a consultant on the other side of how to do closed caption TV inspections, of putting a camera into a system and where you go and you look just to see the condition of the pipes, to see what is happening, so that you get that better understanding of, is the wastewater fully contained? Because these systems, they're underground. We don't see every day what is happening. And we have to get a better understanding of that. That's one of the things that with the state board's programs and the programs that you all are helping us to implement, we're going to be able to do, is have that better understanding so we can see when a wastewater system is impacting groundwater. We can understand where these small on-site systems are that are not being properly maintained when they are impacting our groundwater, our environment, and also our drinking water supply, and where there may be a well that is too close to an on-site system where we are perhaps going out, we're replacing that well. We know that we have a water quality problem where it comes to the drinking water. Well, we're not just replacing that drinking water system, that drinking water well, but we're also cleaning up and replacing the on-site system and getting the problem fixed so that we can continue to have safe drinking water, good ground, cleaning up the groundwater and protecting our environment. Wastewater sanitation systems, they're aging, and an assessment is needed to determine which systems have the potential to release harmful pollutants such as bacteria, nitrate to surface water and groundwater that may also serve as drinking water sources. Collecting information, developing criteria to create a statewide risk framework, prioritize funding for California's wastewater systems is essential to effectively utilize infrastructure investments. This is particularly important to California's most vulnerable populations, including disadvantaged or severely disadvantaged communities with inadequate or failing sanitation systems and threatened access to healthy drinking water supplies. And so it's with great enthusiasm that I welcome Danya to come up and talk about this great program, another former Region 5 employee. So it's great to see just the great work that Region 5 does, and really supporting these statewide efforts. You guys have been a real partner within this program and with others. So Danya, please. Thank you.
Thank you so much, State Board Member Morgan. And just for the record, she used to be my supervisor in MPDS, so we come a long ways back. So, better put my glasses. Oops, sorry. Good morning, Chairman Bradford and members of the board. My name is Dania Jimerson, and I am a senior specialist with the Division of Water Quality, leading the State Water Board efforts for the Wastewater Needs Assessment Project. So before joining the State Water Board back in November of last year, I work in this office for over 15 years, and I am happy to be here today and share that my 4 years of working with the wastewater consolidation program and 7 years in MPDS have given me valuable experience to be able to help the team achieve the wastewater needs assessment goals and objectives, which I will discuss in detail later. So today I would like to go over the project long-term goals and background, then also specific goals and objectives. And a very important component is who is doing the work. So I will provide you with a brief introductions to the wastewater needs assessment team. And next, I will go over the 2 phases that the project has been divided into, which is the methodology that the wastewater needs assessment is following to accomplish these specific goals and objectives. And next, I will review the completed and in progress task. And finally, I will discuss upcoming events and the next steps for phases 1 and 2 of the project. So the long-term goal is to determine and calculate the number of inadequate and at-risk wastewater treatment systems statewide using a transparent, systematic, and replicable approach. This approach mirrors what was done by the Division of Drinking Water through the Drinking Water Needs Assessment for failing to human right to water, drinking water systems, and the current list. So State Board Member Morgan went over this beautifully, so I am gonna be very brief with this, but I wanted to provide you with some of the key initiatives adopted by the State Water Board that will provide you with a context as how the wastewater needs assessment came about. And it started, as State Board Morgan mentioned, in 2016 with the human right to water as a top priority and core value of the water boards, followed by the drinking water needs assessment. And the reason why I have it highlighted here in red is because the wastewater needs assessment is using a similar approach. And we are very fortunate that the University of California, Los Angeles, or UCLA, was also the contracted university to lead the drinking water needs assessment, which of course offer valuable insights to the wastewater needs assessment work. And then in the same year, 2021, when the drinking water needs assessment was completed, the racial equity resolution was adopted, and reaffirming the Water Board's commitment to protecting public health in communities disproportionately burdened by environmental contamination. And finally, in 2022, UCLA entered into a contract with the State Water Board for the wastewater needs assessment efforts. So, and I have another box here, which is outside of the State Water Board initiatives or resolutions, but very much related to the wastewater needs assessment specific goals and objectives, and which I will cover in the next slide. So in 2018, the state legislature passed a Senate Bill 1215 to protect drinking and groundwater from inadequate on-site sewage treatment systems. This bill gave the regional water boards a statewide authority to help provide sewer services to disadvantaged communities with inadequate systems. So the Central Valley and other regional boards refers to this process as wastewater consolidation. And here today is Scott Armstrong right next to my left, who oversees the implementation of Senate Bill 1215 within the umbrella of the Waste Discharge Requirement Program. So the overarching goal of the project is to support the Water Board's vision of clean, safe, and affordable water uses for all the uses in California by identifying sanitation and wastewater compliance problems, proposing potential solutions to improve these problems, and finally, by identifying further actions to ensure that ongoing improvements go beyond the contract of 2027 for this study. A key task in identifying sanitation and wastewater compliance problems is gathering data on at-risk wastewater sanitation systems impacting water quality and or drinking water supplies. And this data gathering is only possible with coordination and collaboration with various divisions and the regional boards. In January and February, we met with each of the 9 regional boards, and we discussed the program goals, the specifics of the data requests, and particularly for permitting and compliance and enforcement aspects of various types of permit and septic to sewer projects. So we work and coordinate with many programs at the regional board and water board state levels, such as NPDES, WDRs, wastewater consolidation, CV salts, nitrate control, and compliance and enforcement. So I would like to take this opportunity to thank all my colleagues, particularly the regional boards, for their collaboration and help during this initial gathering phase. So who is part of the wastewater needs assessment team? So we have the analytical team, which is the contractors, the water board teams, and the recently formed advisory group members. As I mentioned in the previous slide, UCLA is the lead investigator and entered into a contract with the State Water Board in 2022. They subcontracted 4 other universities to do some of the more specific tasks. So one of them is Sacramento State University, specifically the Office of Water Programs, and they are mostly engineers analyzing all the wastewater treatment facility data gathered so far. Another important aspects of the Office of Water Programs is that they serve as a technical assistance providers for drinking water consolidation and wastewater consolidation projects, which is a tremendous valuable experience to have within the wastewater needs assessment efforts and goals. The next university is the University of Massachusetts, or UMass, as we call it for short. So the information that is being collected and developed by the Office of Water Programs, including all the ArcGIS maps with the wastewater treatment facilities and sewer communities, will be used by UMass in the phase 2 of the project. So they will employ computer modeling simulations and new machine learning techniques to build a model identifying likely locations of OATs, and these results will categorize sanitation infrastructure needs in California as either requiring or not require sanitation infrastructure. And finally, the last 2 universities are UC Davis, specifically the Water Management Lab, and the University of California Agricultural Natural Resources. And their experience is very vast as well with these issues. They have led regional studies for safe drinking water, sustainable groundwater management, with emphasis in outreach and education components. So that's the reason why they are leading the baseline survey efforts. Next, I would like to introduce you to the water board's team. So we have Laurel Wardrip. She's a senior environmental scientist for the state waste discharge requirement units, and Stephanie Torres. She works under Laurel and she implements the statewide on-site wastewater treatment systems policy. So we also have Christina Shoup and Ben Letton, both assistant executive officers from the Central Valley region and the Lahontan region, respectively, who kindly volunteered to become the wastewater needs assessment executive sponsors to help with the information flow and communication updates with regional board executive management. And of course, here are the wastewater needs assessment advisory group members. This group is limited to 30 participants, and the advisory group was not part of the initial wastewater needs assessment project scope, but UCLA highly recommended the formation of an advisory group as an avenue to obtain diverse engagement external to the wastewater needs assessment team and to the water boards. And they have a tremendous diverse area of expertise that varies from on-site wastewater treatment systems, consolidation projects, community or environmental justice engagement, and technical assistance, and so forth. And they represent also a variety of organizations such as nonprofit organizations, consultants, tribal entities, county, academia, and as well as the Wastewater Industry Association. So the project team ensured to reach out to a diverse range of potential advisory group members of geographical regional expertise. As you might be aware, the sanitation needs, for example, for the North Coast or the Bay Area might differ the needs in the Central Valley and the San Diego and Imperial counties. So in terms of the phases of the projects, as I mentioned earlier, we have two phases. Phase one is expected to be started in 2023 and is expected to be completed in 2025. And the main goal is to understand the baseline conditions of California wastewater infrastructure. Phase two, it's expected to be initiated in 2025 and completed in 2027. And the main goal is identifying wastewater systems of concern and potential solutions. And the team intends to publish a list of wastewater systems by the end of 2025 or at the latest early 2026. So in terms of some of the completed phase one tasks, we have phase one work plan has been completed. And that's phase 1A in the flow diagram, identification of data gaps, and that's one portion of phase 1C. And then, of course, we have the formation of the advisory group, which I mentioned earlier. Is not being shown here in this flow diagram because the formation of the advisory group, it was not part of the initial project scope, but it was highly recommended as an avenue to obtain that very diverse engagement external to the wastewater needs assessment team and the water boards. So within the phase one, we have some other tasks that are moving along and they are progressing, such as the baseline assessment, which I am going to talk about in a couple of later slides, and that's phase 1B, and the risk assessment criteria, phase 1D, solutions and cost criteria, phase 1E. And in terms of phase two, so the list of wastewater treatments of concerns is also in progress task, specifically phase 2B. So in terms of the current efforts, today I would like to go over three main things. The first is the data gathering and where all the sources of the data are coming from, specifically the Division of Financial Assistance, regional boards, and counties. I will provide you with a brief update on the baseline survey, which was initiated in May. And the, of course, kickoff of the advisory group, which was completed in July 26 in this office. So to advance with the goals of the phase one, an initial data request was originated by the Division of Water Quality Deputy Director in November of 2023. We scheduled individual meetings with each regional board focusing on engaging staff responsible for waste discharge requirements and NPDES permit units. We are also closely coordinating with the Division of Financial Assistance to gather information on wastewater projects, whether they are capital improvements or septic to sewer projects. And finally, the team plans to reach out to the counties as they are the local regulatory agencies for individual on-site wastewater treatment systems and with effluent discharge or systems with an effluent discharge of less than 10,000 gallons per day. Within the permitted NPDES, WDR, and collection systems, the team gathered information for 7 specific facility types, and with that, the analytical team has gathered information on approximately 2,400 facilities across the 9 regional boards. This number has fluctuated in the recent months as the team better understand the challenges with the California Integrated Water Quality Systems, or CWIS database, where all this data is stored. However, the team is expecting to have a final draft list by the end of October. So the communications with the regional boards have been invaluable. They have helped the team assess regional challenges and set data expectations, specifically regarding the uncertainty of WDR data when it comes to exceedances, notices of violations, and overall compliance and enforcement actions. One example of this is the mandatory minimal penalties, which are very different across NPDES and WDR permits. And one of the reasons is, of course, the limited staff resources. For example, Region 5, the staff to permit ratio is about 120 sites per staff member, which makes it really difficult to keep CWIS data current. So this adds a layer of complexity to the wastewater needs assessment work, especially since WDR permitted facilities account for approximately 40% of the total facility counts that the team so far has collected. And of course, this is very much related to the long-term goal that I mentioned this, and I showed this slide earlier, which is to be able to use a transparent, systematic, and replicable approach to determine and calculate the number of inadequate and at-risk wastewater treatment systems using reliable and robust compliance and enforcement data when it comes to these exceedances, notice of violations, and so forth, especially since the wastewater needs assessment approach mirrors what was done for the failing human right to water, drinking water systems and their current list. However, statewide monitoring data for domestic drinking water, drinking wells, and drinking water facilities are readily available, which is, of course, not the case for wastewater treatment facilities. Another current effort that is the baseline assessment survey. And the main purpose of this survey was to gather information on a range of water-related sanitation issues in communities to understand the baseline needs and conditions outside of the conventional sources of information from the regional boards and the state boards. And this survey was initiated in May, and it was sent out to about 100 participants throughout the state. So the structure, the assessment survey was divided in 6 main components. It had an introduction. It had conceptual definitions in terms of water-related sanitation issues and equity, general community characterizations, and some of the questions that they were included in the survey included problems with access to sanitation, non-functioning sanitary plumbing, sewage systems, access to running water. And the respondents, they were asked to assess the magnitude, persistence, impacts, effects, and exposure of those problems. And number 5 was they were also asked to be able to identify community or government actions to address those problems. And finally, where those problems met closure and what were the references to it. So the respondents to that survey included a very diverse population representing technical assistance providers, government, nonprofit organizations, private consultants, academia, journalists. So as I mentioned earlier, the initial survey was sent to 100 participants, but and those participants forward the survey to another set of participants. So the final population responding to the survey was 166. And this is a map showing the distribution of the participants in terms of statewide areas. So the initial takeaway messages from that survey that the team gathered is a lot of these, the responses agree that there is a great reliance on on-site and sewer systems. A lot of the communities have intermittent or no water supply. And one very sad discovery is a lot of the communities that have been depending on age on-site wastewater treatment systems. Now they are relying more and more in mobile toilets or porta potties. So the final takeaways, initial takeaways from this survey are the following. Access to drinking water and water-related sanitation problems are long-term issues that some communities have been experiencing for more than 10 years. Reason why some of the communities are beginning to rely more and more, as I mentioned earlier, on mobile toilets. And also another takeaway is individuals using mobile toilets are experiencing these sanitation issues all the time at work, at home. So, and another aspect is most of the sanitation issues are occurring in single family homes, RV, and mobile home parks. And finally, disadvantaged communities are experiencing a disproportionate number of water-related sanitation issues. So the next steps after this initial assessment, baseline assessment survey, are a field campaign that will be performed by the team to ground truth the information collected by the survey and to characterize the issues through pictures, conversations, and help us determine at-risk locations with potential sanitation issues. So these are the numbers from the Housing Community Development from 2024 for mobile home parks in California. We have about 5,230, and for employee and farm housing in California, 1,497. And in Region 5, there are about 700 mobile home parks, which account for about 13% of the total number of mobile home parks in California. However, it is important to note that there might be more mobile home parks since the Housing Community Development does not permit all of them. So, and an interesting fact is that about 25% of the projects that I work on while I was with the wastewater consolidation project were regionalization projects of mobile home parks with city, municipalities, and districts. So mobile home parks are a great percentage represent a great percentage of the disadvantaged communities and regionalization projects. So in terms of disadvantaged communities, throughout California, these are the numbers from 2022, about 4,738, and total tribal disadvantaged communities is approximately half of that. And it is worth noting that the number of disadvantaged communities in Region 5 is about 25% of the number of disadvantaged communities throughout the state. And that includes, that 25% include the mobile home parks, which kind of help us put in perspective the relevance for the wastewater needs assessment, close coordination and collaboration with the Central Valley Regional Board staff and many of the programs involved in this effort. So in terms of the advisory group status, as I mentioned earlier, the advisory group will provide the wastewater needs assessment feedback, but it's not a decision-making or direct advisory to the state water board members. So, and in terms of the commitment, the advisory group meetings began in July, and they are expected to be completed in 2027 with a meeting frequency of quarterly meetings. And the kickoff advisory group meeting, which was completed on July 26, we had 8 advisory group members who attended in person, and the remaining 22 participated via Zoom. We also had 2 state board members participating at the meeting, and opening remarks were given by our Division of Water Quality Deputy Director and by State Water Board member Nicole Morgan. Region 5 Executive Officer Patrick Palupa and Assistant Executive Officer Christina Shuk, who, by the way, as I mentioned earlier, is our wastewater needs assessment executive sponsor, also were at the meeting. And we received very good feedback from the advisory group members on this first advisory group meeting, and we are currently addressing some of those suggestions for the next meeting. In terms of the upcoming events, we have, as I mentioned earlier, the next advisory group meeting is Friday, October 25th, and it's going to be 100% virtual participation. We also have a phase 1 public report coming up in October. And in terms of the next steps for the overall project, I know this is a busy flow diagram, but I really simplify it, Patrick. And so, but I wanted to emphasize 2 main tasks within this flow diagram. And as part of task 1C, the wastewater needs assessment will start to reach out to the counties, but before that, we will be introducing the wastewater needs assessment goals and objectives, as well as the team, to the California Directors of Environmental Health to create a foundation for the wastewater needs assessment engagement with the counties. And Chad Netung, who I have present and helping me here today, and who is implementing Region 5 OTS policy, is helping us making those connections with the environmental health directors. And as part of task 1D, the team will start to work on identifying risk definitions for determining what constitutes an inadequate systems and determine the number of inadequate and at-risk systems throughout the state. And with that, I thank you so very much for your attention, and I welcome any questions. Thanks.
Thank you, Danya. It seems like the methodology is kind of tracking along with the drinking water needs assessment that was done earlier. So it's obviously very comprehensive, and you're in the middle of it. So good luck moving forward. I was wondering if the budget cuts impact this program at all.
That's a very good question. Actually, no, because this was a contract that it was initiated in 2022. So the budget, it was already allocated for that. And so everything is in the contract, and the disbursement of funds and everything according to the different phases and everything. So the 5 universities that I show in the slide show they all have their phase different task and description, so that the workflow for them it won't be affected by the current budget cuts. So
That's good news. Okay, thank you. You did a great job summarizing that. Thank you very much.
you're welcome.
Am I correct to assume most of this work is in the valley floor, in the Central Valley, Sacramento, San Joaquin Valley floor, as opposed to the foothills and up where I'm at?
That's a very good question. I know the regional board, Central Valley Regional Board covers like 28 different counties, but
And I'm very familiar with 3 of them. I've installed septics, I've repaired leach lines in my past
I know, I
lives.
was reading your background. Very
I've done a
impressive.
lot of work with septics at the state board level and personally.
Oh, that's
But I'm
fascinating.
assuming this isn't in Alpine, Mono, and Mariposa County. I'm very, very familiar with, and I know the health officers, and they have all this information already. I mean, they know, the environmental health officers know.
I'm going to take note of that. Thank you.
In most rural counties, they're pretty on top of it. And
Yes.
very rural, but I'm not saying Merced County and the valley floor is a whole different ballgame because
Mhm.
you've got such a concentration. But where we live, it's 5-acre parcels. I mean, a septic on 5 acres and the wells have to be set back or you can't get a permit. And it's a fractured groundwater aquifer, so it's a totally different system. I just wanted to clarify that it appears most of your work's being done where you've got larger aquifers where you can have infiltration.
Yeah, going back to your original question, and as I was saying, yes, the Central Valley covers probably 50% of all the counties, but this is a statewide effort. So we're covering the entire statewide, all wastewater treatment systems for the entire state. So, and yes, the Central Valley has a large portion of those, but we are making sure that every system is covered. So,
okay.
If you look at the map, it is every system that reports in CWIC. So every little WDR, every little rest stop, anyone who has a permit from the board.
So you're, so it's community more.
It's
system,
everything,
yeah.
foothills, you go high desert, down to LA County, just
Right,
every
but not residential septic systems with a single house on 5 acres.
Not so much those, but there are ones where you have very, very small systems. So if it's a few houses networked
Right,
together,
right,
some
I
of those
understand.
are
Okay.
in there. It really depends on what how the counties are regulating, and that's kind of what Chad's role is to
Right.
kind of, counties have as very different standards on, what needs a WDR or what falls within
Right.
their ordinance.
Okay.
but that's a very good point. And following up with Patrick's, so the initial gathering, it has been mostly dependent on what is available and permitted through CWICs, all those facilities. But that's the point of the baseline survey, that they are trying to account for all other systems that are outside of the regulatory arena of whether it's the regional boards or the counties. So that's their job to kind of, with the second phase of the baseline survey, to go in the field and talk to communities and discover those systems that might have a smaller group of houses attached to it. So,
If I can chime in really quick too, the OUTS policy implementation program
The way that we're engaging with the counties is focused on them identifying areas of high density outs development and evaluating water quality impact from those high density developments. So we will be included, at least for the
You're gonna
Central
work,
Valley,
yeah.
in our focus.
Yeah, that's what's important. You showed 3 mobile home parks in all of Mariposa County and your dots. And I know that for a fact that 2 of them are hooked up to public regulated NPD, regular sewerage systems. And one's probably got a WDR through well, I know it does.
Right.
Because I was involved with it in my youth.
Sure, and that engagement doesn't just include the Valley floor counties, it includes communities and the counties that are predominantly up in the hills as well.
Yeah, I'd like to say thank you for the presentation, a lot of information there, a lot of survey, so a lot of effort going into it. So thank you for those efforts. As we all know, California become more and more expensive to live here, and affordable housing is less and less. And and I see that survey, the mobile home parks are a lot of them, and which is in a way is great, right? So I'm just curious, is there any predictions of forecasting more to come in the future in California?
In terms of what?
In terms of just mobile park, are we going to have more of it?
Well, that's a very good question. And as I mentioned, as an interesting fact, when I used to work in consolidation here, 25% of the projects that I work on, which were a lot, close to 60 or 70, involve mobile home parks, because even though they are privately owned, they do qualify for grant funding, especially because the grant fundings that the Division of Financial Assistance give, as long as they are benefiting the residents, and as long as those mobile home parks, they have a city, a municipality, or a district they will be connecting to for reliable sewer services, that those municipalities, districts, those are the ones receiving or being eligible for the funding from the Division of Financial Assistance. So that's a long answer, I know, to your question. So yes, I anticipated that mobile home parks will be more and more coming in future projects. As a matter of fact, Region 5 is right now working in a tremendous regionalization project for the city of Chico, and with the Rural Conservation Community RCSC nonprofit organization, with actually 6 mobile home parks connecting into the city of Chico. And as you know, there is a prohibition of discharge for nitrate discharge that was issued by this regional board in the 1990s. So everything, all these pieces are coming together. And even though State Board Member Nicole and Patrick mentioned, these budget cuts not only influence in terms of resources and translating into PWIs, but also for wastewater projects, the budgets have cut tremendously. So to be able to mention those success stories it makes me really, really happy, since I am very passionate about the subject. So yes, I anticipated mobile home parks are going to be a big part of the story for regionalization projects.
Yeah, that's good to hear. So thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Okay, this is Denise. I have a couple of comments. First of all, I want to thank Nicole for her work in this area. I know she was very instrumental in the water needs assessment as well. And thank you, Dania, for your presentation. It amazes me that when we did the SAFER program and the staffing for SAFER from all of the region, I did not see any African-American represented in that. And I'm seeing the same thing with this advisory body. We do exist in California, and we are part of the disadvantaged community, most of us. So as we're dealing with racial equity, I'll just say this. I think it's important that I be able to see representation of my ethnic group in many of these advisory groups. I know the advisory group is not the one that will make the final decisions, but they do give input. And it's just important that I'm able to see representation on these committees from my African-American community. I also want to just comment on the mobile home parks. You've indicated, you know, addressing the mobile home parks, but many of the disadvantaged communities have mobile homes, they have septic tanks. And so I just wanted to bring that out, that we have a lot of septic tanks in the communities, and people use mobile homes, or they dwell in the mobile homes. So however we can make sure we can address the concerns of these disadvantaged communities, the septic tanks are inoperable. I mean, I heard a gentleman in our community say, I've had my septic tank since the 1960s, it's working, and I don't want to switch over to sewer and pay a sewer bill. But we know that a septic system that old, there's problems, there's leakage and all of that. So we definitely want to make sure that we can address the concerns of the disadvantaged communities. And then my last question, although we're dealing with needs assessment for wastewater, looking at the potential as we move from the needs assessment to further implementation of water repurposing, reuse, and recycling, because that's a critical need for communities right now as we're dealing with GSA, groundwater sustainability, that we look at how we can recycle, reuse, and repurpose our water to make sure we have safe, clean drinking water. And communities like Allensworth, as I expressed earlier in our board meeting, that we are having problems with our water. And so ways to improve that are definitely very important. So those are all my comments, but I do thank you for the presentation and the work you're about to do in addressing the needs assessment of wastewater treatment is very important, particularly in communities like ours. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your comments, Member Kadara.
Board Member Kadara, I would say that we can forward you the presentation, but that there are a couple African-American members of the committee, environmental justice organizers from Southern California that are part of the assessment. I know, and again, we're certainly tracking this, but meeting a couple of them at the 26th meeting, I do want to note that when UCLA convened this group, and it was kind of under their direction that they convened it, they really made a lot of efforts to include a very, very diverse array of participants from all communities, you know, indigenous folks, lots of Latinx folks from the Valley, just a very wide selection of folks that are tried to be as representative of California's demographics as possible.
Thank you, Patrick.
Thanks again, Danya. I really appreciate your time, and again, a great presentation. Thank you.
Excuse me, we have one commenter here,
Okay.
Debbie Mackey from the Central Valley Clean Water Association.
Okay. Hi, Ms. Mackey.
Hi, good afternoon, Chair Bradford and board members. My name is Debbie Mackey. I am with the Central Valley Clean Water Association, and Mr. Baggett, good to see you again. It's been a while, so glad to be here. The Central Valley Clean Water Association, or CVCWA, represents wastewater treatment plants that provide wastewater collection, treatment, recycling service, disposal service, and other environmental services to our Central Valley residents is out here. And I am actually very honored also to be on this Wastewater Needs Advisory Committee. It is a very important effort. We're excited about that because the needs are great. And whether it is, we're trying to do big things, big important things with big systems, or we're trying to just take care of the small systems. Those things are important. And I just want to let you know, with Civiqua, our membership in the Central Valley, we have the largest inland wastewater treatment plant, which is Sac Sewers. They're 181 million gallons per day. One of our members, their smallest wastewater treatment plant is a community septic. It is 6,000 gallons per day. So you can see the diversity. And if you look at the diversity of treatment plants, we go from some of the most high-tech treatment plants in California. We have a lot of our surface water treatment plants that not only do secondary, which is required by the Clean Water Act, but they go to tertiary. They're doing filtration. They're doing nitrification, denitrification, so nitrogen removal. They half of them are doing UV disinfection, which is another level of treatment. And with that comes incredible cost. And so when we talk about costs for wastewater treatment plant, especially our surface water dischargers, most of them are over $100 per month. Some of them are several $100s per month. And without some of the grants that have come through in the last 7 or 8 years, some of them would have been about $700 per month. And these are for small disadvantaged communities. And so as we talk about this, I'm just really excited because there are a lot of needs. We have CV salts, which we know are going to kick a lot of new requirements in for our land discharging treatment plants, which many of them are still secondary pond plants, simple disposal. And when they are protective, whether it's a septic or it's a tertiary, when they are protective, it's a good thing. And if they're protective of surface water or groundwater, and it's a low technology, it benefits the community. It's a lot less expensive. It is a great way to dispose. So answering your question on septic, right, or your comment on septics, it's not a bad thing. But when it's not, it's not. It's not a, we want to be working to connect that. And I just want to tell you, there's going to be a lot of needs. We're going to see that with the Central Valley. We're seeing some decisions that are being made both at the state and regional levels. Region 4 just adopted a watershed nitrogen permit. I can't remember, I want to say in the $30 to $40 billion range of requirements. There's a lot of demand and not a lot of money. And so we're really looking at things like affordability. How do we divvy up really a lot of resources that are not there? And so I just want to let you know, I'm looking forward to working with your staff, really looking forward to working with Danya and State Water Board staff and the rest of the stakeholders. It is it's a fun group because it is a lot of experts and diverse ideas coming together. And hopefully we're going to be working to come up with some resolutions, come up with some plans, and really protect the environment and do it the best that we can. So thank you.
Thanks for your input. I wasn't expecting to hear the word fun and wastewater in the same sentence, but it is exciting. You guys are doing great work. So I appreciate it. Are there any more comments, Mindy?
No, there are not.
Okay. If there's nothing else, I think that wraps up the last agenda item, and this meeting can be adjourned. Well, thank you all for coming. See some of you in October.
Board members, just a quick note, if you could go to the San Joaquin room, and everybody here, actually, we have some cake for Dale and Sue.
Do we have a closed session? No. Okay.